We start with information, that information is the lifeblood really of any society, but especially for democracy, for a democratic government. The founders of this country, and then over the years our courts, have reinforced and intensified the idea that freedom of speech and of the press are extremely important as conveyors of that information, as seekers of the information, and then they distribute that information to us. So as you know, the founders in the First Amendment thought that this was so important, a cornerstone of the government and of a democratic society, that they protected it within the Constitution.
My name is Jack Johnson, you know, I was born and raised in the Bay Area, and I picked Cronkite because I've always wanted to be a play-by-play guy. You know, when I dealt with what I dealt with my freshman year, I was ill, and then I got better slowly over time. I felt behind, and I felt kind of a little bit on the outside because a lot of people had been to more events and had been involved in clubs, and I just wasn't really able to attend. And that was a struggle my sophomore year. And throughout my sophomore year, as time went on, I just became more displeased with my experience at Cronkite. The competition was certainly getting to me because nobody's ever really that happy for you when you succeed. And people are always quick to criticize. And the way I live my life is that if you're able to criticize somebody to me, what does that say when you're talking to them about me?
Never been interviewed by the producer before. Something new. My name's Ashley Engel. I'm a senior. You have to realize, like, we're all college kids. This is like the best years of our lives, you know? Like, I want to, you know, sometimes go out on the weekends with my friends in Old Town and have a good time, you know what I mean? But sometimes, like, oh shoot, like I have to do this package, or I have to do this article, I have to do this essay, and then I forget to realize, like, I'm a kid. Like, I'm 21 graduating with my bachelor's, I'm just like, holy crap.
The school and the curriculum is great, but if you're not working outside of that, you're gonna get left behind.
Competition is basically at the heart of journalism. That's basically how it is. It's one of the most competitive industries out there. Journalism's hard.
There were times I thought I wasn't going to be able to stick it out, and frankly that was when I had 2 young kids, and you know, there were points where my husband and I would meet off a freeway exit and I'd hand over a baby carrier, you know, so it was like those kind of moments, but it was definitely outweighed by how much I love the job.
I just think just finding that balance is important, and I didn't do that the first 2 years of college, and I lost weight, I had severe anxiety, I was put on medication for it, and I just did not know who I was. Like, it was hard, and I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror.
And people think it's an easy major. No, it's hard, and it's a lot of hard work. I don't sleep much. It's because there's all that work that you're doing. And I think that when you are looking at what the journalism industry is going to be, you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to find ways to make yourself stand out. So having those opportunities like football, where it's competitive, everyone's going for it, you get it, you got to be at your best, otherwise they'll replace you.
I think a lot of it for me was mental. I think people make the mistake of feeling they can't have a life balance, and you can. And the way you do it is by being honest to the people, with the people you work for, by not putting ridiculous expectations on yourself. And that's what I think I did early in my career.
And I found personally I needed to exercise every day. Like, that was something that if I didn't get, I was not going to be a happy camper. My name is John Walters, and I have been in the sports writing world for over 30 years. I worked at Sports Illustrated for 15 years, NBC Sports for 5 years, including 5 Olympics. It's gotten even more competitive in my industries in the 30 years because it's one of the weird industries that has not grown, it's shrunk. So there's fewer jobs available. So the people you meet in this business, they're passionate about being the best they can be at it.
They'll tell you that there is a finite amount of jobs. Not everybody, it's not like business. Not everybody that comes here is going to get a job. And then you're going to be the schmuck who has the sports journalism degree trying to get a job at State Farm. You know that if you have a better resume than the person next to you, more experience, and if you're in charge of the clubs, you can put yourself in the most advantageous position, because ultimately, you know, I may like you and I may want you to succeed, but I don't want you to succeed any more than me, because that puts me at risk. And then I have to go find a new livelihood. And I think whether students won't admit that at this school, I think that weighs on everybody's conscience.
Everybody's, you know, trying to do their best to be the best journalist that they can, and, you know, make as many connections as they can. I think it's really competitive. I think sometimes people can stab other people in the back. Again, I haven't been here for that long, but I've seen, you know, a couple things where I'm like, that's not a really good thing to do to somebody that's your friend.
I try and make it as real world as it can be in that sense. And yeah, if you're gonna come introduce yourself to me and talk to me, then yeah, I'm gonna look at you differently and make a decision based off of that, because, or you know so-and-so, or so-and-so knows you, and I know that person, that yeah, that's how the real world, or at least that's what Cronkite has taught us, is going to work. And so why not give them that real world experience right now, even as a coverage team?
Whether people like to admit it or not, especially at the Cronkite level, nepotism plays a factor in every decision. You know, you're going to try to help your buddies out, and they're going to try to help you out. And the biggest thing for me is to not show any sign that I'm partial to anybody. You know, we may hang out, but when it comes down to somebody getting a call, I can't guarantee that to you.
I've realized that all these people want to do is just have those opportunities, and to be able to give them these opportunities and to be able to help them in their editing and their videography, like, that just is something that makes me super happy, and that this club has given me, and that Cronkite has given me in that sense.
I see it all the time, and have had people come into my office and talk about how they feel like even within their club they're kind of being overlooked, and it's a tough thing. And I think it's a never-ending battle like Cronkite, where we have to keep sending the message of all these great opportunities, but trying to tone down this competitive atmosphere.
When I first got out of college, I was a pre-med, and I took a year off, and I actually taught high school chemistry. So, and I taught even high schools, even while I was working full-time in the industry. I've always thought that what you want to do is basically treat everybody as if in the beginning that we all know nothing. Don't assume anyone knows anything, and start with everybody at the same ground floor. And from there, incrementally work up. So I don't want anyone to be afraid to ask a question, and I don't want to assume anyone knows anything. The thing about journalism is there's nothing you can learn in this world that will not help you become a better writer and a better journalist. So journalism is very general in that sense.
I felt like at the beginning, the teachers were very supportive. They would help me on my on-camera presence. I took a broadcast voice delivery class, and it was very much, this is how you do it, this is how you do stand-up, this is what you do, here's a 90-second package, this is what you do, and this is what you'll basically be doing for the rest of your life. If you don't know how to do it, figure it out, basically. We're gonna help you and we're gonna support you, but this is the basic news sports packages that you're gonna be doing for a news station. And they would always bring in news reporters. They'd always bring in sports reporters. It was never social media. It was never content creators. It was always people that were on camera.
I think in a lot of ways I didn't go to school. In a lot of ways I took a 4-year internship with some classes on the side. Like, I think our college experience is so much different than anybody else's, because you come in here, the people who truly want this and know that they want it coming in the doors have a singular focus. Peyton Gallagher, sports director at Blaze, done a lot of work with WCSN, and do a lot of stuff with Pac-12 Insider, play-by-play. The marketplace very clearly is different than it's ever been, and the understanding of not just branding, but being conscious of the things that you're making, right? Like the premise of creation in this industry has always somewhat been suppressed. It's supposed to look like a certain thing. And what, you know, I talk to my friends in the industry, I talk to just people, they say you always be you, but I never feel like that's actually taught here.
The real world is what we're trying to get them ready for. The whole theory of, you know, the teaching hospital mentality and the professional programs is all about getting everybody ready to go to a newsroom or work for a website or a team or things like that. And so I think sharing the stories of the challenges that we faced and sort of our personal tales has entered more into my teaching than it might if I was working at another profession, at a different college.
I think it's a 30% in the classroom and probably a 70% outside in the field, because you know you have that tight connection with your professors here, but they also have basically just connections that you can grow off of.
If you're not involved in clubs, you're kind of really not doing the experience to the fullest. I would say you're not getting the most out of it.
Cronkite is a grind. They instill that from you from day one. If you are not grinding and you are not doing everything that you possibly can to get ahead of someone, you are behind and you are not doing what you're supposed to. And I think I really truly believe that freshman and sophomore year, and so that's why I bought into, I think, Walter Cronkite Sports Network, because I was like, okay, they're the top people, I have to go and just kind of, I'm gonna better myself and live up to their expectations. I'm gonna keep going, keep going, keep going.
The longer that I've been in clubs like that, you realize that there just aren't enough opportunities to go around all the time. And the best way to counteract that is to try and instill a mentality that allows people to understand that they can create their own opportunities.
But there's been a couple instances where clubs play favorites, and that happens. It's just how it all shakes out. I've been denied, and being denied is a part of it. There's no doubt about that, but at the same time, the fact that I'm still getting a lot of the opportunities that I want to get means a lot, and I think that just shows what Cronkite has given me and how it's made me better.
I think you have to be a little bit of a shark to survive in this school. And I don't mean to make this any more like ominous, you know, it is school and it's college. It's a big thing at play in clubs because there's a lot of inner politicking and there's a level of seriousness and, you know, real gravity that comes to the decisions that you make. And now, you know, for me, I'm in a leadership role with 2 clubs. You know, I'm feeling kind of the weight of those decisions more and kind of, I guess, understanding and respecting how serious those decisions are because you're getting the feedback from the people affected by them.
I feel like just that competition between like some clubs around here, I feel like they didn't realize that we're all here for one reason, paying a crap ton of money to be here. So we're at the end of the day, we're all gonna get the same degree.
Everybody at Cronkite has a million things that they're doing, which is amazing because we get so many different opportunities. But at the same time, you kind of ask, like, you know, how did you get that, and how did you get this job or whatever? And they're like, it's kind of difficult because they don't want to share it with you.
To somebody who's coming up, they're seeing you as an obstacle to get what they want to do. I think it's crucial for the people who come through these doors to know that the people making these decisions, A, know what they're doing, have a plan, have a vision, but B, care about them, and it's not personal, and that, you know, opportunity is a finite resource in many ways, especially in certain aspects of the school, and that whenever you don't get what you want to instill this, I think, and it's been huge for me. When you don't get to do what you want, you need to go to that person, ask them, what do I need to do next time?
It's competitive, right? Like everybody wants to write the story that's on the top of the site. But it's also collaborative because you're working sometimes with 2 people or 3 people on a story. Sometimes, you know, you're working just to all of you get the site up that day. But I was very, very lucky to work at Sports Illustrated for 15 years. That's, you know, A+, especially when I was working there, grade of talent. And what you learn, and even I just got back from working at the Olympics at NBC, being someone who other people like to work with, no matter how talented you are, is really important.
There's this clarity that comes when you realize, hey, we want all of us to succeed, because as soon as somebody from Cronkite gets a good job somewhere, that means that my schooling carries more stock and more weight to the places I'm trying to apply it.
I think good journalism will continue to be vitally important, and when there's a need, there will be people to fill that need. I do understand that there is burnout, and maybe even in the profession there is burnout now too, with what people are being asked to do, multitasking, being put into dangerous situations, and not being able to take too much of that. But you know, it's a supply and demand sort of thing, and I think as long as there is the demand, we will have the supply of good journalists to fill those positions.
Burnout is very common. I've been burned out multiple times, but here's the thing, you gotta allocate your time, and you gotta make sure to take time for yourself.
I made my decision in February that I was going to leave downtown, get away from like Cronkite being Big Brother in, you know, 1984. Get out to where college life is, you know, kind of dominates. You know, there's more Greek life, and I got involved in Greek life just for an alternate perspective on college, because Cronkite is very businesslike, it's very surgical, and you can kind of get wrapped up in it. You know, you can just work your whole college life away in an edit bay.
It's hard when teachers that know you really well and they say you look like a sad puppy in the edit bay. Like, no joke, I literally had someone tell me that, and they go, you look like everything has been sucked out of you. And it was hard. I felt like it was just a very hard, just on my mental health, and I think Cronkite doesn't really take mental health in consideration. I think they push you until you break, and I don't think they think that they're doing that, but I think just the culture that they built is where you have to keep going, kind of you take that upon yourself.
And that competition has somewhat pushed me to the people that I care about. But if you're not wired the way I am, the stress of it could be collapsing. And it's put me in some stressful situations. It's actually made my relationships better. I think in the long run, it's actually put me in a place to be around people that think like me and understand me better, because it's survival of the fittest to some extent, right? Like, and if the people that are around you can't necessarily take that, they'll kind of fall away, and you're in the grind and you're working hard, and they'll be like, come out with me tonight, and it's like, no, I've got to work on this project. And over time that they just kind of creates a degree of separation. So that might be callous and cold, but that's how it's worked for me.
It's hard because it's like I'm looking for jobs, but it's like, am I ready for a job, or can I take 3 months off, or is that going to look bad, and then they're going to look at me and say I didn't work for those 3 months and not hire me? And I think that's just a horrible culture that journalism has kind of just come into, is if you're not constantly working, then you don't have enough experience and you are not right for that part. How dare you take a month or 2 off? And I think I've even talked to friends about that, and they're like, yeah, I'm afraid to take a couple months off, because what if they look at me differently and don't give me the job because I wasn't constantly working? And that's horrible.
And I tell these people all the time, it took me 2 years. I was teaching aerobics for 2 years when I graduated, and you know, did some freelancing on the side, and eventually it pays off. But you're right, that immediacy thing, that's one message I'd really like to get out. And I think it's really on the faculty, it's on faculty advisors, it's on the deans and the assistant deans to get that message out, because we do, and I understand it by all these fantastic clubs and these opportunities that we present at Cronkite, we do create this atmosphere that maybe is a little bit unreasonable at times. And you know, I think just the best way to combat that is to, yes, take advantage of these things, but do not measure yourself next to the person to your left.
I just wish that the school would advertise how much you have to do it yourself. You know what I mean? You know, I think they sell the school part a lot, and there's a lot of great gadgets here. There's a lot you can do, and there's a lot of opportunities they provide, but most of it is going to be you know, you're gonna cook the food, set the table, serve the dinner.
You know, there should be like a play-by-play lab, because right now Cronkite has professional programs and they only recognize one kind of journalist, which is a news reporter guy or written guy, at least in content production. And like, I know that the production side of it is actually becoming more of an emphasis and they're working on it, and this stuff can't happen overnight, but it needs to happen.
Like everything else, there's always room for change. So, I mean, change does take time. Just like diversity takes time, like learning new things takes time. Even learning about yourself takes time too. So I think the more time and effort that people use to change and to educate themselves, I think the better it's going to be.
I love this place to death, and I am so proud that I have gotten to go to school here with great people like yourself and people who care about people and about making things and legitimately telling stories that matter, because once people realize that it's not about being Stephen A. Smith, it's not about, you know, being a celebrity, it's about helping the public. It's a public service, what we do. And that becomes the root of why we do the things we do. Watching that happen, that metamorphosis for so many of my colleagues and peers has been like a really rewarding experience. And now to get to watch it somewhat from a 3,500-foot view, from that bird's eye view as freshmen and sophomore figure that out, that's what's special about this place. And that will not change. It's just, it needs to be protected at all costs, and people need to understand the spirit of that and how to improve upon it and adapt it to the changing environment that we're in.